Hey everyone, it's Mikel here. Here's the long-awaited last video. It's been postponed probably 2 or 3 weeks, but we're finally here. We're finished in the first, second and third floor. We still have some touch-ups to do in the basement and some extra work outside to do, but this is kind of where I leave, so time to show you the finished product. I wanted to talk a little bit too about why we're doing this renovation, other than to make this a beautiful, comfortable place for the client to live. This is a 1920s duplex, so the important part was converting it from a very inefficient energy product to a much more energy efficient home. If you recall on the earlier videos when we gutted everything, there's no insulation in the roof, nothing in the walls, nothing in the basement, and the only form of insulation we had was in the party wall, which took the form of a 1/4 inch thick piece of, I guess you could call it seaweed insulation. It was 2 layers of paper sandwiched with seaweed in between. That's what they used to use. It was an early form of insulation which really did nothing. So we've added the insulation. We had an existing oil furnace that was keeping the house warm. We had windows in here, the standard, like double hung windows, which were okay, but not particularly energy efficient. So we've added 5 inches of foam in the roof, 3 inches of foam in the wall cavity, exterior wall cavities, 3 inches of foam in the exterior basement wall, and in the party wall, which divides the duplex in half, we put netting and filled that with blown-in cellulose. And then we have a double layer of 5/8 drywall with the layer of quiet glue which goes in between the two, which helps to dampen the sound. So, and doing all that allowed us to put in an electrical HVAC system, which, because the building's tight, we can do that. And once winter set on here and the HVAC system was working, I used to turn the heat on at night, and I'd get here at 8 o'clock in the morning and turn it off, and the house would stay warm all day. In fact, some days I was still sweating in the house in the winter time, and the heat has been divided into 2 systems. We have a system in the basement that heats the basement and the first floor, and a unit that's here on the 3rd floor that heats the 2nd and 3rd floor. And I've never had to turn the 2nd and 3rd floor one on. I just did it once to test it. But if you do that, it's like the house gets too warm because the heat from the 1st floor rises up here. So it's turned out to be an incredibly energy efficient operation with the foam. The one thing, if you're considering doing it in your own home, that you have to consider is that if you're tightening an old house up that much, you have to provide some form of ventilation. Otherwise you're going to have issues with mold and mildew, etc. How we've overcome that in this house is we put something called an ERV, Energy Recovery Ventilation, which pipes in continual fresh air from outside, and any of the old air gets exhausted outside as well. So there's a continual air exchange going on, keeping the air fresh. That's going to avoid any kind of issues with mold, mildew. So that's one thing to be really aware of. It's great, foam insulation is great, but you need to provide some means of ventilation, passive or active, to avoid having issues with mold and mildew later on. So I'm going to walk you through, remind you of some of the steps along the way, but most of all I want to show you what the finished product looks like. From the inside, it's kind of like a new house, new windows, some new trim details, but still very much in the original configuration. Obviously we've had a lot of modernising, 2 new bathrooms and a new kitchen, but it's pretty much still the 1920s home, but just a lot more energy efficient. So that was really, other than the comfort of the client, the major reason for doing this renovation. because again there are a lot of old homes out there with very little or no insulation at all, and rather than building a new home, you can, with some expenditure, bring it up to the energy codes as it is. But so I just want to show you around, and if you've been following these videos, you might want to go back to some of the earlier ones, because there's a lot that you'll see has changed. If you're just watching this as a finished product, it's like, wow, okay. But you want to see all the work that's been done. Today is March the 30th, 2013. I moved down here on January the 10th, 2012. We spent 2 weeks gutting the whole of this one side. We started construction April 16th, 2012. So it's been a long journey, and it's almost over. So here's the finished product. Let's have a look. Okay, so like most of the videos, I've started here. This is the 3rd floor. So I've started upstairs. This is kind of what would technically be called the bedroom, but is most likely going to be used as a couple of offices. So there are the flat panel doors that we installed. Coming out to the stairwell, you get a view here of the handrail and balusters. Got walnut handrail, walnut caps, just with your painted balusters and yaw posts. Here's the walnut handrail, and the stair treads, which are oak. The floor is red oak, but it's quarter and rift. And I talked to you a little bit about this before. It has a much more beautiful grain detail in it. We have a matte finish on the floor so as to avoid that high gloss, kind of yellowy look. And through here. Now I can see by the timing here I'm going to have to do at least 2 videos because I've been babbling around too much, so be prepared for that. And this is the 2nd room. Let's have a little look in this attic space to show you what I mean about the foam. So if you look in here, see this beautiful yellow foam. There's 5 inches of foam in the roof, and we've actually encapsulated the whole building, the roof detail, with this foam. Next door, instead of doing the walls with foam, we blew in cellulose insulation from the outside, since we didn't do such an extensive renovation on the other side. But that's kind of what it looks like in the roof and also behind the walls. The light. And head down to the 2nd floor. Another view of the handrail. I had a lot of fun doing the stairs. And we have this beautiful walnut linen closet that was made by an artist here in Rhode Island. And very simple, very clean, beautiful clean lines, and just a really nice piece of furniture. And here we go into the bathroom, which is not quite complete. We're still waiting to put the toilet. There's a very fancy washlet toilet seat on there. It's like a combination electric blanket and bidet. We're still waiting on a part for that. But other than that, see here the completed bathroom, thermostat for the heated floor, and into the shower area. All the little bells and whistles, coat racks, and into the master bedroom, which will about to be filled up with furniture at some point. And here's the master changing room, 2 closets, his and hers. Well, I see we're running out of time, so what I'm going to do is stop the video now and start up again shortly.